Hey guys, welcome to Off Street Outdoors, and today we're going to talk about, is long range shooting an ethical dilemma or is it perfectly fine? Let's find out. This isn't going to be a video that's going to be like law-based or really factual, except for ethical. We're going to be talking about ethics today, right and wrong, and a lot of times with ethics also deals with your belief system and what you believe. As I believe in God and Jesus as my Savior, my ethics are right and wrong, and that's how I believe. So go with who you want. But ethics is something that you're taught and learned throughout your time with your belief system and aligns with. It kind of builds who you are. So we're kind of going to be talking about the ethics of, is this a issue or not? I don't think it's an issue personally, but let's see. So long range hunting. So why are we talking about long range? Well, because of social media nowadays, it's definitely becoming more and more prevalent that you're seeing people out there taking long range shots, filming them, and then posting them on social media. And of course, like anything else, like videos like this and videos that I've posted before, there can be mixed reviews and there could be mixed feelings about it because people believe differently and were raised differently, and that's fine. But we're gonna kind of get down to the nitty gritty today and find out if there's a legit problem with long range shooting or if it's just fine and there's no reason not to try it. So we're gonna figure that out today. Is there an ethical dilemma with long range hunting? And that's what we're gonna talk about today. And then we're gonna pull in basically two sides of the coin. We're gonna argue both cases, and then of course we'll get down to the end of it, and then we'll conclude it at the end. So the rise of this, right? We were just talking about how these have become, like, long range shooting has become more and more prevalent. And the reason why this has become more and more prevalent is the technology's there. More modern rifles that are built better for precision shooting. Optics are better, and rangefinders are better. You're able to range your animal, be able to clearly see it at a long distance, and you can trust that the rifle's going to shoot straight and that it has plenty of riflings in the barrel, and it's a tack driving gun. You know, the technology's there that the weapon can do it, okay? Can do it. And then also, like I was saying earlier, it's impressive. It's very impressive seeing these guys take these shots. But, you see them take one shot, get it, and I think that there's a great side to it. There's a great side. Getting people to more and more as a hunter, very good, and it is impressive. So we'll start with the case. So now, let's argue the case of why you should long range hunt, why it's definitely something that you should try, or why it's a good thing. So first on the list is, like I said a little earlier, technology makes it possible. The technology that it has gone into, not alone just the rifles, but the optics, and that includes being able to spotting scopes, your binoculars, and everything between that rangefinders, all your optics for being able to long range shooting, for long range shots, and be able to trace that and be able to track animals and find them and do these things is so much better than it used. And this is it. It's now relatively accessible for the average person to be able to buy these things and not spend thousands and thousands of dollars, even though I still spend thousands and thousands of dollars on this thing I like to do. It's called hunting. But it's definitely where it's more budget friendly now to be able to long range shoot. And I think that's why it's getting to be more and more popular. You can buy the rounds that people are using for these in cheaper brands, and cheaper brands are now making precision rifles, and it's every brand is going to make a precision rifle, and they're doing all these things. So the technology is there, and it's more accessible for the average person. That's where I would say would be why it's becoming a thing. And that's it, right? That's an awesome thing for you guys out there, is everybody can try long range shooting. I have my 700 Remington 30-06. 30-06 can make those shots. It just depends on the user and the training and the time that I take to put into it. That's part of it. And like I said, that's moving to our next topic, or our next argument to say, is training. A lot of these hunters are trained. A lot of people say is they could be military trained or things like that. I don't really take that into account, as that's something that just makes them a good shot. It could help, but practice makes perfect, and to stay good at something, you have to keep doing. It's like this. It's a perishable skill. If you don't do it relatively all the time, you eventually forget how to do certain things. Or it doesn't become as natural, and you have to refigure things out. So getting really good with your stuff and being highly trained, that's becoming more and more accessible and better being able to do that. Another great thing about long range shooting is you're not putting so much pressure on the animal compared to being really close. They hear the gunshot, vice versa. Now they're probably going to hear the gunshot, but it's going to be very far away. It's not going to really scare them as much as it would be at anywhere from, say, 50 to 150 yards, or even maybe 250, 300 yards. I don't know exactly where that ends. It depends if you're hunting with suppressor or not too. That's another argument for a different time. But it's definitely something that I have seen with longer range shooting. I shot a deer at 200 260 some yards. I can't exactly. I shot a doe and thwacked her. She was down on the ground, and we were hunting suppress. So I mean, that's kind of a little different, but it's still long enough distance that there was really, the animals didn't know what happened. They just saw one of their friends, or not, I guess not to use the right term for that, not friends, but saw one of them out of the herd fall, and they were like, oh, well, that's weird. They stand up, but they were like, okay, and then they kind of, they'll mosey on off on their wells, and it helps pressure. Also with that also makes it easier for hunters in the future if they want to come in and hunt. The deer aren't over pressured. If you ever hunted public land before, you can tell when deer have been over pressured. They will push out of an area or they will leave. So that's definitely a huge plus with long range hunting. And then another reason why long range hunting is great, in my opinion, is disabled individuals that have handicaps of some sort. They gotta hunt from a vehicle, they gotta be able to shoot, and being able to shoot from the road at a distance, that's definitely something that's there, and it can help them get them opportunities, not just to shoot the little dinky deer that don't really know much about being close to the road, and gives them a really good opportunity to shoot deer at a better distance and maybe get a chance at bigger deer or elk or vice versa, whatever they're hunting. So there's that argument, or there's that. And then in all honesty, long range hunting, in my opinion, is not bad. It's not, and this is for the case, by the way. It's not bad. You shoot, it's fun, it's way more relaxing. I'll say this, in my opinion, long range shooting is as addicting as bow hunting is for a bow hunter. And what I'm saying is that you have to train and practice, stay consecutively into it. It's something that it's not just going out shoot your 30 out 6 once or twice a year, make sure it's sighted in, good to go, that you're comfortable with it. Going out and shooting deer anywhere from 50 to 150 yards. It's a relatively easy shot for most average. That's different. That's why you got the Orange Army, but then you got these guys that are like legitimately wanting to go and hunt these animals in remote areas and in mountains and stuff. Long range hunting is the bee's knees when it comes to those, and that's kind of where we're going to talk about why it's great, why I like it, why it's this. Now we're going to flip on to the other side of this, and let's go against why it could be. Now try to be as evenly possible with this. So the case against long range shooting: risk of wounding an animal. Now this is something that is definitely, doesn't matter what range you're at, there's a possibility for this. It's just long range, little increments of jerk, muscle tense, or windage, things like that factors at that distance. Let's say 1,000 yards, shooting an animal at 1,000 yards, that there's pressures and windage, and then yourself, right? You have to make sure you're rock solid if you have to jerk the trigger or whatever, which does happen when you're in a very nervous big buck or big elk or big bull or whatever you're hunting, and you're sitting there, you get the buck fever, you're shaking, and you're trying to calm down. Any little minute problem that you have or minute tweak you do is going to be it's going to be like millimeters for you. It's going to be just barely happen, will be inches, maybe even feet down at 1,000 yards. So it could potentially make it to where you potentially could wound an animal, and then you can't. Now you got a wounded animal, now you got to put another shot in there and hope that you can make what you just did. Now you're nervous, now you're more wrecked. Can you settle yourself down? It's a lot of different things that could go into that case for that factor. Now this is one that everybody seems to want to say, and this is mostly, I think, from people that are bow hunters and that would argue this, is fair chase. Well, it's not fair that you just jumped out of your truck on public land, you stepped over the fence, you saw a deer at 1,000 yards or let's just say 800 yards, and you just smoked that deer, walk over, grab it, and leave. That's just not fair. And it's like, and I guess there's probably a little bit of luck on top of that I will argue for that person that would maybe do that. But is it a problem with fair chase? I mean, you're taking away that personal connection with the animal that you're getting. Some people would say it's loss of tradition. Getting close with the animal to go up in a tree stand, ground blind hunt, spot and stalk, try to get as close as you can. There's a lost tradition in honoring those that have come before us in that. And then recovery problem. Now this one I think does happen quite a bit, and it gets to be a little nerve-wracking. Or it's kind of like you see the animal, you take your shot, and then you realize, how the heck am I going to get down there and get to that? And that's where you have to make sure, and so there's a recovery problem. Recovery problem is something that, the guy gets up, he's getting ready to shoot, he goes bang, shoots it at 1,000 yards, or I keep saying 1,000 yards, but anywhere past 500 yards. He shoots it, and he gets up, and he looks down, and he realizes, I just shot across the gorge, that's got a river running through it, and I don't know how I'm going to get across the river, go get that animal, and then get it back. And of course, I also have 30 minutes before dark, and I have to walk 500 yards, cross a river, and do all these things. It gets to be maybe an issue. So that a recovery problem is that. And that's kind of all we got for what I could really think of for cases against long range hunting. There's probably a bunch more out there, and I hope you guys definitely give me some suggestions down in the comments down below and let us know if I missed any, or if any that you guys have for arguments for that. That is just fine. Let's keep it civil though. Speaking of that, if you're not subscribed, please go up and hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you guys. 99.3% of you guys guys that are watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel. Please go back, subscribe to the channel, leave us a like down below and a comment down below, and let us know how you feel about the channel and what you guys would like to see. Anyways, moving on. Now we've talked about kind of both sides, and it was hard for me. It kind of, as you guys probably can see, I'm in the ethical middle ground where I can see both sides of it, but I lean towards more of long-range shooting. I don't think is an issue, and it's also the same idea in the arguments with like baiting. Is there an issue with baiting? I don't think so. I think it's just a tool and a way that you can do it. That's just me. I think long-range shooting is something that has opened to a new style of sport, of sporting in the hunting industry, in the hunting sector of the world. And I think what really stemmed from that and why it came from there was like long-range shooting started to get really, you know, more and more people are doing it because it got more accessible to the average Joe. And that was because, and I would honestly say this would be, and I really hate to say this, it's because the 6.5 Creedmoor and probably I like to say this, in the PRC. You know, Hornady's new builds for a lot of these guns, they definitely do a lot of precision stuff, and I think that they made reasonably priced flat shooting rounds that became relatively readily available really easily, and I think that's kind of where that kind of stemmed from. Where I will say that long range shooting this is not so much as it's as something that be laws that you can't shoot past this distance or this distance, or you can't do this, or you can't this caliber or anything like that. I don't think it's anything like that. As it should be is that the person that you are, the individual that's hunting, you're going out there and you're going to long range, you need to know where your minimum and your maximum limits are. You need to know, you know, you need to have your dope put up. You need to make sure that you know exactly where that round's going, or know exactly what's loaded on that round, what round you're using. Make sure your scope's sighted in. Make sure, you know, you put in the time and effort and train with that weapon system. You would be just fine. If you feel comfortable at shooting, you know, you don't feel comfortable at shooting 500 yards and you only like to shoot, you know, 450 and lower, good for you. Smart. I think that's smart. If you think that, you know, you're really comfortable at shooting 1,000 yards at the target and stuff, but you know, you're deer hunting and you're like, I won't shoot anything over 700 yards. And even if that, it has to be a giant, that I just can't possibly get any closer. And you know, there should be other, don't take those shots unless you absolutely have to, is what I like to say. Try to get as close as you can, but if you have to take that shot, and then sometimes it just comes down to timing, season's getting ready to over, you have a tag to fill, something like that. I get it. And like I said, you know, practice relentlessly, and then you know, you need to make sure whenever you're hunting, and bow hunters are really good about it, right? And the reason why I say bow hunters is because it's just been like two sides of the coin. But bow hunters have to watch the conditions and the weather that they're hunting. Maybe they can't use the bow in the conditions, it's too windy, the arrow might deflect. They need to know all these things while they're hunting. Same thing for long range shooters. They need to know the pressure. You need to know your geometric pressure. You need to know your temperature. You need to know how much wind direction, windage is, and wind direction, sure, you know, because you're deer hunting, so you're down. But you know, knowing which way, if you have a crosswind or this wind, or if the wind's swirling or whatever, make sure that you have that information and you know it and you're good. And then honestly, where I will say that respect the animal. You want to make the fastest, quickest, and most ethical kill that you can make in a fast, quick, and ethically timed manner. And what I mean like that is that people make mistakes. You're gonna jerk the trigger. You're gonna maybe make a bad shot. I've done it plenty of times. And you know, young, dumb, stupid kid rushing a shot, trying to look cool in front of my buddies. And I'll tell you, it was a very miserable experience for me in the fact that watching an animal suffer that didn't need to, and I made a stupid decision. You know, I had to learn, and also think it was a little bit of the gun law for some reason. I borrowed a gun, so I wasn't super comfortable with it either. But see, there's that argument too. It's like, make sure that you're comfortable with your weapon. So I've been there to make those shots and feel that guilt that you feel when you're hunting. So I understand, and I also understand that they do happen. But us as hunters, our jobs are to make sure that we mitigate those problems as much as possible, to make sure that we make good ethical shots and don't go out there just half cocked. And you know, and if you have done it, it's okay. It happens. Just try not to do it again. That's us humans. That's what we're going to make mistakes. We keep moving up from them and keep going forward. So that's a big picture. As hunters, we need to make sure that we are, like I said, respect animals. We respect the land, and you know, respect the laws that were given to us by our government. Even though we might not agree with them, sometimes we must respect them and do the right thing when no one. And if you're gonna video shooting long range, make sure that you know it's a good shot. Animal goes down right away, or animal goes and runs a little bit and goes down. You know, make sure you're not posting like made a bad shot or whatever. You know, and you know it's or whatever. You know, you can post a shot if you meant. I would just say try to be respectful of the animal, of yourself, and the people that are watching potentially could watch. I'm not gonna say put up there that you know don't put that you made a bad shot, I guess, because you know I could educate somebody, but but try to be respectful, because there are people on the internet that are going to grill you alive, and perception is everything today, or in this day and age. So, don't give them a reason to say anything bad. Is what I'm trying to say. And honestly, like where I get why this is becoming so like popular, why I kind of like. To me, it's the preparation and the patience, and everything that you need in long range hunting is very similar to bow, and it gives you a more edgy edge, right? Or not edge, but it's like you have to work a little harder with the rifle, and it gives you a little more, makes things a little harder, and you have to wait for that perfect shot. You're really working on patience as a long range hunter, and I think with bow hunting, it's definitely really working on patience and waiting for that right moment, take the shot, and that's the same thing with long range hunting. I think that's why it's been very, 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 excuse me, I said very like 20 times there. It's why it's getting to be more and more prevalent, and people are getting to do it. So we basically learned that long range hunting isn't black and white. It's about skill, responsibility, and respect. The real question is, where do you draw the line when it comes to take shot? That's the real question. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sign off here, and I want to leave you guys with that question. Where do you draw the line when it comes to long shooting? I'm Jared Street. I appreciate you guys for watching. Please go and leave a like and comment down below on what you guys think about long range hunting, what your guys' longest shot is, and why you took it. Give us some feedback down there, and I'd love to give you guys a comment back. Most of you guys can tell that I like or comment back to most of your comments out there. And yeah, thank you for watching Off the Street Outdoors. We hope you guys come back again. We appreciate it here. We're at like 100 subscribers now. Crazy, and I'm excited about it. So thank you guys. See you guys next time.